praisforwarwear.com.
Hello, family and friends. How are you today? My name is Praise Forward, and I'm super excited to be with you once again. When my name is mentioned, it's got to be family life and how to effectively live your life to the best of your ability. I'm so excited to be joining you today. Now, I intend to do this more frequently because a whole lot of you have been asking a lot of questions about your relationship. And trust me, it's become somehow a bit tough to meet up, and that's why we have a whole lot of coaches right now who work with me to bring wellness and peace to your family. Now, today, I'm going to be starting a series on how to master co-parenting or how to effectively co-parent. Because if you look at our world today, I mean, the verse has gotten to an all-time high that it should get us very worried. But whilst, two partners can go their separate ways, when they have children, it becomes very, very tough. And it's not as, easy when two people who used to love can just walk away. There's a child whose love is shared, a child who's used to saying mommy and daddy, and now mommy is going to go away, maybe marry someone else, and dad is going to marry someone else. That's why today we're going to start delving into co-parenting so that we can help many of our people who are going through this challenge. I hope you will learn from this because this will sure transform you. Now, so when it comes to co-parenting, I always say that there are fundamentals that everyone needs to understand. And the number one fundamental is that love can break down, with love for a child not breaking down. That two people who used to fall in love can fall out of love, and the love can break down. But the child, is when the child is involved, and the child must not be broken down. Number two, a bad spouse does not necessarily translate to a bad parent. It's one of the mistakes that we make. We just think that, oh, because my spouse was a bad husband, then he must automatically become a bad father. No, that's far from it. We know a whole lot of men who maybe, sleep around with girls, do extramarital, but they cannot allow anybody to touch their daughter, right? So we need to understand that being a husband or being a wife is a role. Those roles are optional. The same way being a parent is also a role. Being a father, mother are roles. Now, there are roles descriptions. So when your knowledge is adequate, when it comes to parenting, and inadequate when it comes to marriage, your marriage may break down, but yet your parenting skills are still very intact. Now, parenting and marriage are two different roles with two different sets of role description. I just mentioned that. You need to understand that you can be a good father and a bad husband. You can be a good man and a bad husband and a good father, right? You can be a bad father and a good husband and a good man, right? And so when we understand this, it makes it very easy for us to relate at different levels. Now, marriage is about the couple, while co-parenting is about the child. We need to understand that. So where a marriage has broken down, I mean, the easiest way to look at it, it's like you are acting two movies. You are cast in two movies. Movie number one is marriage. Movie number two is parenting. Now, you know that you have to follow a particular script. You cannot bring the script or your experience and acting out the role of a husband into being a parent because it's not going to work. So those two movies are two different movies. And that's why the emotions that is required are not the same, and the worldview required are not the same. But a whole lot of people, they struggle simply because they've been through pain, especially when the marriage ended badly. So the sight of the person actually brings a lot of bad memories. But we always have to separate the two. Now, not creating a proper structure for getting the best out of a child will make the grass suffer when the two elements are fighting. And in this case, the husband and the wife are the two elements. The child is the grass. And oftentimes, a lot of children go through a lot of psychological and emotional trauma that they never recover from simply because their parents parted ways, especially if they don't handle co-parenting properly. So, what is co-parenting? I have defined co-parenting as the process of creating a team-based responsibility towards a mutual goal of getting a child to become the best version of himself after a divorce or a separation. Now, co-parenting is the process of creating a team-based responsibility towards a mutual goal of getting a child to become the best version of himself. With that definition, it's pretty much clear that what co-parenting is basically two people coming together to become a team. So for example, in a football match, we don't have to be best of friends, but if the goal is to win for the team, then we have to ensure that is done. I think I read a story of a particular coach whose captain is not his friend. They are hardly on talking terms, but he still retain him as a captain as long as the goal for the team is consistently achieved. So you can come together, even as a company, and say, you know what, we want to build a unicorn. Now, it's a project that brought us together, and so we have to be committed to the project till the project is achieved. Now, there are basic things you need to understand about co-parenting. Number one, it's a role with a clear role description specified by intentional script. Now, co-parenting is a role. I mentioned that earlier. However, if we don't create a script for it, which I find very absurd, that two people who parted terribly want to co-parent and they are not writing a script, they're not working with a professional to help them create a script that can promote the best interest of the child. So consistently, they still bring their fight to the location of the new movie and the child suffers. Now, number two, the main cast is the child while the two parties are supporting cast. So when it comes to marriage, the two main cast is husband and wife. When it comes to co-parenting, the main cast, the main actor of the movie is the child. So everything must be built around him. But oftentimes, the two supporting cast try to take the shine away from the child. So I've seen situations where in Africa where a mother is using the child to get back at her ex, putting the child on social media and asking the child to tell the world how irresponsible her husband is. That is damaging to the psyche of the child. In fact, it can be classified as taking advantage of the child. If the man is becoming responsible, there are other ways to go in about it. And that's why you need to enlist the service of a professional. Now, everything done outside the best interest of the main cast will sabotage the best-selling movie. So we need to understand that if we have to pretend to be cordial or to be best of friend to get the best out of the child, since the child is the reason for the movie, we have to do it. You cannot come up with your own agenda or come up with your own program and mess up the best interest of the child. Now, number four, broken marriages is a different movies and the pain is irrelevant to the new movie. Right. So My Broken Marriage is a movie. I mentioned that. But Co-Parenting is a different movie entirely with a different director, with a different cast. And so when it comes to characterization, we need to get into the role to produce what we need to produce. Now, we do not have to be friends. However, when it comes to co-parenting, we have to be cordial to get the best out of the child. Now, we need to understand that co-parenting is taking responsibilities for future solution. It is taking responsibilities for future solutions. So we need to first of all separate our pain, our trauma that was occasioned by a broken down marriage. Whatever you've been through in that broken down marriage, we need to set it aside, understanding that we don't even have to be talking or be friends, but when we meet at a location and we have to act a movie, we need to listen to the director of the movie and we need to play our role and be as professional as possible. I know that sometimes the emotional roller coaster people go through, occasioned by the separation, can be very devastating and very difficult. And that's why you need to get a therapist to help you work on your emotion and separate your emotion, which is often occasioned by your interpretation. That when something happens, what happens is raw data. It is your mind that gives interpretation to things. And so when we come to co-parenting a child, we need to understand that we're coming together not to outdo each other. It is to take responsibilities for a future solution. Number two, it's not a restoration of love relationships. So co-parenting is not so that we can come back together and start sleeping with ourselves or start coming together and start seeing how the marriage can work. If it leads to that, that's another ballgame entirely. But the primary reason is coming together, to produce the best, what can be in the best interest of the child. Now, the true test of our love for the child is co-parenting. We can't say you love a child and you've separated the child from the father or the mother who really, really want to play a role in their lives. No, it's not only you. So it's not a competition. You cannot prove that you love the child more than the other person, especially if it's a case of a divorce, right? And so it's the true test of our love. And part of love is letting go, right? Part of love is letting go of your pain, letting go of your emotion, and putting yourself together to get the best out of your child. Now, number 4, you say co-parenting is a system aimed at producing the best interest of the child by two responsible adults. Now, where irresponsible has been confirmed, then it becomes single parenting. So there are two different things. Single parenting is where one party has shown to proven to be irresponsible, is not willing to play a role in the life of the child. So in that, you become a single parent and you're allowed to be a single parent because then you will now classify the other person either as a pseudo surrogate or pseudo spam bank. It's just that it's not a mobile spam bank and not the normal spam bank. Right. So you need to understand that it's a system. This whole body of knowledge called parenting is a system aimed at protecting the best interest of the child by two responsible adults. So the irresponsibilities that happen in marriage is different from the role demand in co-parenting. Now, it's not a ploy to get back at each other. So it's not what we come together to get back at each other. I'm going to show that I love the child. And I've seen that happen where a father is trying to show that he loves the child more than the mother, or the mother trying to show that she loves the child more than the child, more than the father. And so it becomes a major war that messes up the psyche of the child. There is no love you can show to a child when at the end of the day, a child's psyche is totally a mess. Now, you need to get familiarized with this triangle. We call it the triangle of life. Now, the two of you, when you come together, I usually prefer when you can hire a professional or a mediator to help you see through this process because it may not be something you can do by yourself. So you can hire people. I've had to sit with a couple of, divorced people to navigate this process, creating a script that they need to follow because sometimes a child is taking turns to stay at both ends, and we always have to continue the script that we've written for the child. It cannot be about your emotion. It has to be about what we need to do to get the best out of the child. So what is the outcome you want, right, for the child? It must be mutually agreed. So we write that down. Then what beliefs must drive our behavior? So this is the outcome we want, but how must we behave? That is the top part. Who must we become to achieve that result? Because you cannot retain yourself and get the best out of your child. A lot of parents, they know who they want their child to be, but they do not know who they need to become to get their children to become who they need to be. So, for example, where the role demanded that you do not yell, you do not shout, you do not scream on the child, many people struggle to do that, because they've been socialized to shout and scream when things don't go their way. So they mess up the child by themselves, by their unwillingness to work on themselves, to get into the appropriate character for the best interest of the child. So within this triangle, you start with what outcome do we want? What beliefs must we embrace to power that outcome? So beliefs can be, this is my co-parenting mate, right? So we're co-parenting, we're not lovers, right? And so if that is your belief, when it comes, you see a teammate, and when you see a teammate, you need to collaborate because there's a goal. So who must we become? Who must we become will include that we cannot be shouting at each other. We need to put up our best behavior to get the best out of the child. Now, let me say finally that co-parenting, according to either Elder, is not a competition between two homes. It's a collaboration of parents doing what is best for the kids, right? Co-parenting is not a competition between two homes. It's a collaboration of parents doing what is best for the child, right? So you need to understand that when you come together, you have all it takes to get the best out of your child or out of the children. And so if you're hurting, if you're in pain, those are outside the scope of co-parenting. You can't bring them into co-parenting. And that's why you need to separate it. I am praised. I am a human being. I am a husband. I am a father. I am a professional family life coach. three different, four different roles. So I know who I need to become when I'm running my organization. I know who I need to become when I'm leading my family. I know who I need to become when I have to be a lover to my wife. You cannot mix these things together. And we all have the capacity to do this. So I believe that as we go through this series, a lot of children are going to get better, and many of us will separate our personal sentiments and the personal emotion from the collective task we need to do together to get the best out of the child. Now, if you have a question, you can send me a mail. If you want to support what we're doing, some of you have asked, you can send ours, PayPal. You can send your donation to PayPal or through Zelle, whatever it is. And you need coaching, you can send the mail to what is scrolling on your screen. But I want you to know that you have what it takes to get the best out of the child. So marriage can fail, co-parenting must not fail. I'll see you some other time. I remain Praise Fowowe. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.
I am Praise Fowowe.